To introduce Matt Morris. He's come all the way from Christchurch, Ōtautahi, to come and speak to us, and we're really honoured that you made that work. Matt comes from a research background, did a PhD in learning about what's going on in this motu in the gardens, and you've also released a second book recently, I believe. So
Yes.
I'll leave it to you to segue. Yeah, fantastic. And I'll step out.
Kia ora koutou. So nice to be here. I know I was only meant to be on Zoom, but I thought, coming to Golden Bay would be really cool. And I have an ulterior motive as well, which I'm going to mention probably slowly. But yeah, I just want to say thanks to the organisers. Kelly, I think, made the first connection, which I was like, oh, how nice to hear from Kelly. And yeah. So, and what a cool space. This is the first time that I've actually been here. I have wanted to come for many years, so it just seemed perfect. And a special wee thanks to Oscar as well, who's, probably not going to be with us for the whole day, but is in fact the person who drove here. So the request was that I talk a little bit about the history of gardening in Aotearoa. So I would like to do that, but I thought because I've also been involved in Kai resilience work in Ōtautahi, that I might share some of that as well, and also a little bit about current things that I'm working on. I'll just grab my bag because I just, now, no pressure, obviously, but just in case anyone's interested, I did bring a couple of things along. So yeah, so this is my book that came out in 2020. It's up here, history of, what is it called? Garden Histories of Aotearoa. And really the focus of it is on home gardens. Which was the topic of my PhD, which was on Christchurch, but I think it's a funny, cute topic to study home gardens, but for me I absolutely love that. But the idea of home gardens is a little bit awkward when we're talking about some periods in our history and hopefully maybe in our future as well. So I will come to that, but also, I have this little picture. So this is actually not of me or my family or anything to do with me. It's one of the photos that got sent in to me for the book, but didn't get into the book because it wasn't a very good scan. But I absolutely love it. This is probably late 70s or early 80s, which is when, kind of roughly when I was growing up. And this is quite evocative for me. The garden as a sanctuary, like almost like a playground, and a very safe place. Dad's got the wheelbarrow and is probably the only person who's actually working in the garden. The others are just having a nice time. I'm guessing, I mean I don't really know, but that's my guess, and if it was my family that would definitely be the case because I didn't do anything to help in the garden. Which is quite different from this photo, which unfortunately, the person who sent it, they had a photo this size, and so when they wanted to put it on the cover, make it the whole cover, but it was too small. But anyway, this photo is of a girl and her grandfather, who, probably irrelevantly, but I'll just mention he has a wooden leg, and they're in the garden growing potatoes, there's cabbages, there's some other things in there as well. It looks like quite hard work. This photo was taken in 1943, so right in the middle of World War II. New Zealand had a bit of a Dig for Victory campaign going on. But whether that was relevant or not, I don't know. The fact is that gardens for people the middle of the 20th century, gardening was an activity that involved a lot of work. And not necessarily awful work, but it was the reality for people that if they wanted to have food, they had a garden. So quite a massive shift actually between 1943 and let's say 1979. A huge cultural shift, which I think has in fact undermined our food sovereignty, you could say. But just before I go any further with that, a little bit about me. This photo is also not me, but this is my mum, and it's my brother, my much older brother, and this is their garden in Invercargill, where I was born, not at this house, but at a different place. And so this is a great, I love this photo because it's colour and it's 1966. So, but yeah, and just showing, isn't it nice, the dahlias, everything, a very sweet little spot. And so that was the kind of gardening context that I was born into. So cute. But my interest in actually getting involved in gardening really happened from, do you recognise this person in his undies? It's not me, it's also not me. I've never been able to look like that. In his undies, bare feet, mowing the lawn with a motor. I mean, what could be more Kiwi than that? Is that alright?
Yeah.
So in 1994 or 95, I met this character. Sol, do you recognise?
Yeah, I was going to say, it must be Bob.
It's Bob.
It's lost that Bob. My God.
Bob Crowder,
Yeah.
who at this time had just arrived from the UK. So this photo also, I think, is, I'm going to say 67. I can't just remember off the top of my head, but it would be around 67, 68, I think. And this is in Auckland. So he had just got here. He was fresh out of university studying horticulture. He had a job in Auckland working for the Department of Agriculture, basically telling farmers how to grow vegetables, but quite a lot of chemical advice being involved in that work. I know not everyone will know who Bob is, which is totally fine, but
Chemical advice.
pardon?
Chemical advice.
Yes, unfortunately it was the 60s. Yeah, no, but he wasn't. Yeah,
Not then.
I know. This is controversial, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not.
Extra information.
I know. If you're interested in the whole story, I'll come to that. So anyway, that was Bob in the 60s, but I met him in the 90s when he was already well known as the pioneer, New Zealand's pioneer of organic farming, and particularly developing the commercial organic sector in New Zealand. Which one am I using? So this is him in 1983 at the Biological Husbandry Unit at Lincoln. So he moved from Auckland, came to Lincoln and started up. After a long time, after about 10 years, he got into organics and committed the rest of his life to promoting organics. So when I met him in 94, that was kind of towards the end. He was retiring, but he became a mentor of myself, like he has been for many other people. And so yeah, just wanting to acknowledge him. This is the next book. So you mentioned it. Now, if you're interested, I did just bring along a couple as well. This thing's going to keep breaking down. Yeah, so, oops, let me go back to that. When I was studying, I moved into Bob's sleep out and suddenly got very engaged in the world of organics and food resilience. And very soon after that, got a job working for the Organic Garden City Trust, which was trying to make Christchurch an organic garden city. This is where I met Amy. Yay. Yeah. And it had a lot of project groups like Kids Edible Gardens, the Community Gardens Association, the Canterbury Commercial Organic Group, and it also took on the role of coordinating the Canterbury pilot of what became Organic Farm NZ, if you're aware of that local organic certification scheme, which I think Golden Bay was one of the other pilot groups, wasn't it? So so that's me, and then I got involved in soil and health and various things. After my PhD, I sort of stopped for a bit, and but I got a job at uni at Canterbury working in the sustainability office, and through that also got really involved in the post-earthquake food resilience initiatives in Christchurch, which I'm going to link back to in a little bit. Well, actually, I mean, this photo is a result of one of those. It's called Ōtautahi Orchard. I think this photo was probably 2016, where the government had said, we want a community garden in the central city.
Yeah.
And they tried to procure it through GETS, which is their government procurement system. It's so outrageous. But anyway, we were actually successful. So that was one of these sort of post-earthquake outcomes. And but really that whole work had kicked off because suddenly Christchurch had about 600 or 700 hectares of quite good land around the river corridor where nothing, the red zone, the houses were cleared and you weren't meant to be building back, and the gardens had been retained. So these old gardens that people could forage in suddenly became a thing, and so that was really the first bit, we were like, geez, this is bad, but also, what does it mean now? What can we do with this land? This is a bunch of people posing for a press photo. It's not like everybody doesn't just wander around with big wicker baskets.
Sorry,
Oh yeah, that's thank you. Yeah.
they're nice.
Yes, so what else? Oh, so and then for me, my current project is working on a book about community gardens in Aotearoa. So that is my secret ulterior motive for wanting to be here, as well as to see you all. The two things go together for me. Oh, so about what's in here. This is another cute photo that Ruth Reed sent me that didn't get into the book, so I just like it because it's so cute. Oh, but again, doesn't really tell the whole story of gardening in Aotearoa. So, as I said before, the book focuses on home gardening because I think there hadn't been a lot written about home gardening history in New Zealand. There'd been quite a lot written about the big estate gardens, the famous, important ones. But the gardens that most of us actually experienced as kids or even as adults were not reflected in that at all. So I'm more interested in social history. Having a home with your own garden really is related to that concept that we own our own parcel of land. So it's very much connected to the idea of individualized land parcels. So it gets awkward when you start talking about pre-colonial gardening styles, and also when we're starting to think about decolonization of our lives and gardening projects as part of that. It's also a little bit awkward. But I mean, we don't have to get too bad. I just use the term fairly loosely. This photo is, it's undated. It's probably early 20th century actually, but it almost, apart from what the people are wearing, it could have been taken any time in the previous couple of hundred years, really. The book actually covers the period 1300 to 2020. It's very precise. Yeah, but I mean, this is a photo of a Maori family up north. They've got lots of corn and potatoes. And when I say a couple of hundred years, it's not really true. It would be probably from around about the beginning of the 19th century that this kind of garden would was
Corn and potatoes.
Corn and potatoes.
Corn and potatoes.
Yeah. And in a way, this is their home garden. but it's a little bit different from what we might normally think of as a home. If I had to sum up what I think the book is about, it's really about the ways that we have pretty much always used our land, our gardens, for growing food, except for this little blip towards the end of the 20th century where we just, did this or ran around on our lawns trying to avoid cripples. So it starts out outlining the many ways that Māori sustained gardens over many centuries. These immense and highly productive gardens. I mean, they're just, you see drawings, I haven't included any in this, but drawings of these old gardens, I'm sure some of you will have seen them, and they just look absolutely stunning. Wow, incredible horticultural skills. And it also talks about the fact that the presence of these gardens actually made it possible, or easier anyway, for colonisation to actually happen, because otherwise it was a really long way back home to the shops for the people that came out here. So it's quite a sad story as well, because we can't really talk about this stuff without talking about land confiscations, and that's partly because of obvious reasons, but also what was amazing for colonists when they came out here, working families, was that they could actually work and then afford a piece of their own land, a decent sized piece of land, 1/4 of an acre of land, which is huge, I think, to sustain themselves, which is a beautiful thing. They couldn't possibly do that back in England. But the quid pro quo was, in order for them to be able to do that, the land had to be cheap. And the land was cheap because of the land confiscations. So, it's really important, because I think, today we're sort of thinking, what are our high resilience strategies? And, helping people to get better at gardening at home is obviously a key part of that. But there's this other debate about, well, who can afford a piece of land big enough to do this? So, I guess we'll just have to go and find someone else's land and confiscate that and start all over again. Maybe. So anyway, that's really the guts of the story. It does conclude with taking a look at the development of community gardens here in the later part of the 20th century, partly as a way to correct that, the sudden change of what gardens were for, where people grew up in gardens but had no idea how to grow food, like me. And so that more lateral thinking about, well, what other kind of land can we use if we can't do it at home, then places like this. I still am stunned that this garden is 40 years old. It's just incredible. Here's a couple of nice photos. This is again an early 20th century photo of, it's called A Māori Man Storing Kumara. And so getting them ready to put into the storehouse. But this photo is up in Hastings of a cool lady called Hanui Lawrence. You're nodding, she, I think, was on the Queen's Honours List a couple of years ago for starting a program called Auntie's Garden at Waipatu Marae. And she, if you start talking to her about kumara, she will not stop. She's like, I've grown them every single year of my life. I grew them, my parents grew them, my grandparents grew them, and all the way back to somebody who was involved in the land rights activities decades, generations ago. So she's just inspecting them to make sure that getting them started is working all right. She's quite she can be a bit rough, If it's not quite right, she'll leave. But this is some pics of these old colonial gardens. This one is 1910s in England. This is a late 19th century image. But this one just blows my mind because, this is not their land. This is just vacant land. But this is their land, so there's incredible. This is market garden styles, isn't it? Mm-hmm. With an orchard, chook house, amazing self-sufficiency. I'm not saying every single person had a garden like this, but this garden is certainly indicative of what people knew how to do and could if they had a piece of land. And the time, and you were talking before about capacity. And just the availability of time to do things is huge. Some of the people I interviewed were talking about how I remember one lady saying her dad would get up, before sunrise, put on his head torch, go out into the garden, do some things, go to work, come back home, sun had set, go back out into the garden with his head torch and do a bit more, which just seems like too much to me. However, her memories, at least as a child, were very happy. And I think she was saying her dad was pretty happy with this situation as well.
No TV back then.
Was that?
No TV back then.
or the phones and all the things, yeah. This one is a 1920s photo of Christchurch. It's a bit blurry, but again, you can just see. So it's a smaller section, but it's the whole thing is a little farm, isn't it? And it reminds me of Austin Mitchell's book. What is it? The half-gallon, quarter-acre Pavlova Paradise. Yeah. And he talks about how people maintained these market gardens that would have kept the Viet Cong going for decades. Which is a nice turn of phrase, but just meaning there's a lot of food happening in the suburbs at that time and into the 50s. Right. Let me get this mat. So, it's hard to imagine to me that there just weren't fruit and veggie shops at that time. Let alone supermarkets. So, you could go to a shop and buy seeds. You could buy seedlings, but not necessarily a lettuce. Hello? So,
Needs to go out.
yeah, I know, but I'm not sure is there It's a fun way.
There's a door behind.
Okay. Well, I don't know. If you want to usher the bee out. I don't mind the bee. I love the but I'm just... Is it just... So, one of the things that I ponder is we could say that the existence of supermarkets and fruit and veggie shops Nearly. So close. We could say that the presence of these shops actually makes us more food secure than ever because it's easy. But having lived through the earthquakes in Canterbury and the sudden shortages of fresh food that happened then, I don't actually think that argument really holds up. And I think supermarkets only hold, 3 to 5 days worth of food at any one time. So when that supply chain is broken, it's we need to look in other directions. And obviously, from climate science and from our own experiences of living in places like Nelson and Gisborne, that things are more sketchy now than ever, potentially. So, is that the next slide? Sort out So I'll just do that. So I wanted to mention a few things about our food resilience journey in Ōtautahi. So the Food Resilience Network in Christchurch started in probably the journey really began around 2012, but then in 2013 we held a hui with the local councils and various NGOs and I think there were public health involved there as well, Canterbury DHB. And the Biological Husbandry Unit, I think, i.e. Bob. So there were loads of groups that were keen to just come in and get involved in figuring out solutions. But and obviously, like what you've been doing, is thinking, well, you know how to do that bit, you know how to do that bit, you know how to do that bit. Wouldn't it be better if we just try to do a strategy together instead of in silos? And there was massive energy around that, which was really cool. So in 2014, that bunch of people were like, okay, well we're kind of in the same room, but we're in a way randoms. Do we know what we all agree on together? So we created a thing called the Edible Canterbury Charter, which sounds quite grand, but it was just 8 really simple principles that we could all go, yeah, we agree with that. I mean, it's like motherhood and apple pie in a way, or like a flag, but at least it's some clarity. We agree that we're going to work together and that we all agree on these things, which, so that food is the right of all people and is a basic determinant of health, that this idea of mahinga kai, growing culturally appropriate food, growing it in a way that's ecologically sustainable, that there's a role for social enterprise and local economic development in this, a focus on education, community empowerment and collaboration, which I really love this one, that creating a resilient food region requires partnerships between many agencies and cannot be owned by any single group, which I think became a little bit awkward, and so just sort of hold that thought. To begin with, the network met pretty regularly. I think it was every month, because it became the Food Resilience Network, not just a bunch of randoms, and that was nice. Probably met every month, maybe every second month, and they were meetings that happened, with people sitting in a circle, and it was literally just go round, what am I doing, what do I need help with? And then there was conversation about, oh, you need help with that, well I've got that, that sort of thing. Which was very nice and very rich. I'm not sure, does that kind of thing happen up here? In Christchurch it's a bigger space, so there's lots of agencies doing it.
It's not as organised.
Yeah.
It's kind of really heating, like,
Yeah.
this is what this is doing.
But it happens organically, funny, in smaller pockets.
Yeah, which I think is right, it's happening organically, yeah. And that's such a beautiful thing, and it was happening kind of organically with a bit of a kickstart happening organically in Christchurch too at this time. But then another thing happened, which was that as the network developed and people got to know each other and better, and who could do what, it seemed like there needed to be a next step. What are we going to do together? What's our project going to be, or projects? And so, there were lots of ideas put forward. I really loved looking at the list that you had up here before, because I was like, oh yeah, quite similar things. But so one of the ideas that was put forward, which I think is, anyway, one of the ideas that was put forward was to formalize a network of food nodes around the city. And they could be growing spaces, but they might also be, food packing, distribution spaces, could be processing, like community kitchen style spaces. And lots of sites were identified, but the one thing that people really wanted was a high profile central city hub that could be like gateway into this world for people who otherwise might not stumble into it. And so that in time became that thing, the Ōtautahi orchard. So rough, and it was, I think, a coincidence, but when we were talking about this hub idea, the government put out its GETS proposal to procure a community garden in the central city. And of course, because we were so amazing, we won. There were only 2 bids actually. And we had Ngāi Tahu's support, and they were actually on the selection panel. So I'm not saying that that was why. Now, things started to get serious at that point because we had a government contract. We needed to employ a coordinator, that's me. And so money was needed, so accountability was needed. And so this thing of like the loose network where organic things happening was like, that can't be a thing now. It needs to be, you know, like transparent, and the transactions needed to be quite clear. So we, the FRN, the Food Resilience Network, became umbrellaed by Soil and Health, but then with the building project, that just became too much for the Soil and Health Committee, who were like, well, we're not doing anything else except admin for you guys. So it became its own entity. And so that thing about, you know, collaboration, it can't be owned by a single group, but the Food Resilience Network became a legal entity, which sort of took on that role in the community, which left the other partner groups going, well, what? So it's quite an interesting thing, a bit of a tension there. This, I showed you this photo before of Ōtautahi Orchard when it had just been started. I mean, it was a compacted rubble site of rubble. There was a building on here, it was demoed, and so it was just like, there was a basement, all the rubble just went into the basement, and that was our garden. So lots of effort required to actually make it possible to grow anything on there, let alone fruit trees. It was called an orchard after all. But this photo is more recent, so this is kind of this bit here, looking to the, you can see the car park behind. So, you know, it has happened. It's now like quite a magical forest to go into. It's really great. The fruit trees have grown really well.
What's that?
And I think there's another one as well, yeah. So this view from above, again, another lovely press photo. It's not a huge site.
Can you tell me where that is exactly?
Yeah, so this is Cambridge Terrace running along here. Do you know where the Band Rotunda on Oxford Terrace is? It's basically the corner of Oxford and Manchester Street.
Okay.
So right in the central city. And Colombo Street is this side. It's very close to the town hall, like it's next door to the town hall.
So they're growing on the roof.
Yeah, there's a green roof. So this building, this is the thing that created the tension because it's been enormously expensive, like well over $1 million.
What?
Well over $1 million. Yeah. Wow. And part of the reason for that is because it's taken so bloody long to build it, and costs keep going up and up and up. This is a very strongly reinforced roof, like lots of steel in it to support that. This is a solar array as well, which is nice. So it's tricky, but the project team were quite keen that this sort of embodied all the best of sustainable thinking. And you know, and I came here and looked, and I was like, no, but you guys did it like decades ago.
And so is it more like an information hub? So,
Yes.
so I could walk in and find out all about the projects in Canterbury?
Yeah.
And
When it's finished. So ground broke, I think 2018, 2019, still not done.
wow.
But it is, it's open enough, it's good enough that we can do things in, not we, but they can do things in there.
Why is it on the roof rather than on the bare land behind it?
This bare land was the, oh God, the name's just gone out of my head. It was one of the buildings that collapsed in the earthquake. And so it's treated as a, so
The CETV building, you mean? No.
No, the other one.
The other one.
The
Yeah.
PGC, yeah. So nothing can really go on there, it's tapu. But we, a lot of people died in the collapse of the building. Yeah. So, so it's pretty interesting story there. And actually we had some quite serious discussions with my tapu about, well, if that happened, is it okay to be growing food? And they were like, well, it's not like there's a line that you just have in this is, they said, we want food. We want food in the central city, so you do it, but just not there. Sorry, I'm realizing I am going on a bit. So I'll just skip through.
So how is it maintained now? Can you, like it's not just started, so this contract, does it have an ongoing contract with what, the council?
It's actually shifted to LINS now, Land Information and Musician. It's quite funny, but a lot of the land from the, so government took control of the red zone, and then passed that over to LINS to administer, and then some of that has passed to council to as the owner.
Okay.
But
So it's
not
council
this.
owned? It's
I
not-
believe
but not
this site is not council owned.
Okay.
They originally had a lease of a couple of years or something, which was ridiculous. So it was extended to 30 years, which is also ridiculous. But once you've got $1 million plus building on it, it's not really going anywhere. Was the FRN became a legal entity and had quite a range of project ideas that it was doing. However, this thing became such a nightmare that it became the complete focus and actually created a bit of tension. Like, why are we spending all this money on this thing when we've got needs out in our community? And, but the response was, well, we collectively agreed that this was what we wanted to do, and unfortunately that's what's happened. So I think the project team now are like, we can't wait to get the building done and opened and handed back, and then we'll get back to our other network activities. And that really is a really key message, I think, is that we completely underestimated how long it takes to do some of the things that were on our to-do list. And if I could do it again, I would probably be thinking, not in terms so much of what do we want to do, but what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And for me, that is, I was talking to a guy in a community garden recently who said, oh, well, I know an old lady who buys dog food and sits in a cold flat that she can't afford to heat. And her dog food is not for her dog. She doesn't have a dog. And I'm like, oh, that's the problem that I'm interested in trying to solve, because I know that she's not alone. So that's a food justice one. But there are lots of possibilities. I mean, I saw on your list things about food processing. There's the lack of knowledge, about how to garden ourselves or grow food or cook food even. There's not enough land around that people can afford. There's the problems of flooding and seasonal unpredictability and so on. So, in my mind it's like, well, I think we should have gone, out of this massive list of issues, do we really want to focus our attention on and pick something? But it's quite hard because everyone comes to it with different imperatives. But just to add to what I said, the FRN is still amazing. It's sucked into this thing and trying to get it done.
When's it expected? To be at the point that that it's done and you can do that going back to the other things? Is there a time frame or no?
Well, I think every time the question has been asked, when will building be finished, the answer is by Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
We're
one?
never going to get there. We're never
They don't name a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We nearly there. Are we there yet? Yeah.
3 more corners.
Yeah. And it's very much like that. And I mean, that's been a huge lesson for me. I mean, it just about broke the network. You know, after all of that initial enthusiasm, when the big ideas, but then you try to do one, it's like, this is actually really bloody hard. I just want to put it into context though, and then I'll finish. This building, I said it's very expensive. It was one of the anchor projects, the government anchor projects for the rebuild of the city, right? Those anchor projects are hundreds of millions of dollars each. So this was not funded. They just said, here's the land, you can use the land for a limited time only, but we're not paying for anything. So it's been built with crowdfunding, grants from Rata and all of that stuff, which is just immensely difficult.
Wow.
Especially now, because the funding requests are so huge and the pool is shrinking, as I'm sure you're aware.
So was it the building aspect that sort of made it a nightmare,
Yeah,
and the financial aspect?
yeah. I think
More
that.
so than the growing food and setting it up?
Yeah. That was the easy bit. I mean, there were costs to preparing like these massive tree pits had to be done, and also archaeologists had to get involved, and other things like that. But compared to the building, I mean, I think the building is going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah?
But that is the thing that created the problems.
Yeah, I will.
And possibly, if there had been a couple of containers stuck on site and that was the building, I don't know. But this was the direction that was chosen. So I won't go into the community garden stuff, but I know, well, I mean, I could.
Yeah, do.
But
What we can do is we've got a bit of time this afternoon with a bit of leeway, so maybe you could talk to the community gardens after lunch, because I think that would be, seems like that would be an interesting part for people to get stuck into.
cool. All right, well, thank you very much.
Can I make a comment about it?
Yeah.
So I grew up in the Netherlands and in a farming community, and to me the hidden food sovereignty is that during the summer and the harvest, that whole community would just, there would be cauliflowers on our doorstep, there would be a big bag of berries grown, so much is shared, and it's the same thing here, the people who I know who garden, we actually swap a lot of our extra bits. And it's something that's very difficult to put on paper. We tried it. We tried to see, can we map it in Golden Bay?
Yeah.
But actually you can't, because it's so seasonal.
Yeah.
So one year there might be nothing to share. But it is a very hidden food security that we have.
Yeah. Really interesting that you say that. I was just thinking about that. I visited the Netherlands this year and looked at community gardens there, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, this is support, this is happening. Like, there's support there for this. Quite a different style. But, oh gosh, no, it's just actually so interesting. I'll stop. I'll stop. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt, for that perspective, and the breadth of knowledge that you can go to seems quite incredible. And we'd definitely like to talk more about the community gardens after lunch or
I would love to.
yeah.